from the smell of the apartment.
Oof, what's that scent smell like?
I mean, it's I don't want to be cliche here, but it'll vary from.
It probably smells sexy.
It's just me. Listen, velvety. I mean, we pop in the best of white wines, the best of reds. Life is too short.
Oh, so it smells like alcohol.
No.
So welcome to another episode of Malamia. Today's guest is Marvin. Marvin, I know you pretty well, but why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for everyone else?
Certainly. Thank you for having me here. My name is Marvin, as you just mentioned. From Harlem, New York. Moved down here about a little over 2 years ago.
Absolutely. So I also moved down from New York a while back, and my transition was pretty difficult in the beginning. Has it been the same experience for you when you first moved down here a couple of years ago?
Tremendously. I mean, I had pulled the trigger on moving down here literally without a job. Put all my faith in God, and I remember that day vividly. Middle of the afternoon, applying for an apartment and saying, you know what, I got a little bit of chump change. Let's do this. I'm coming out of something quite significant and needed a fresher breath air in the intermediary.
So what about Miami was difficult? Was it the people? Was it the weather? Was it the vibe? What was different or what was difficult?
Well, I think in order to answer that question is really on an individual level, of course. Adapting to a new environment is one thing. Of course, having visited Miami over the course of the last 10 years of my life, given that I have family members, I wasn't too much of a foreigner, but from living in Miami is definitely a different perspective. And also making that decision and where I was at in my life and why it was necessary to move down here varied.
All right. So when you say you've been here or you've been here over the last 10 years, you visited Miami. What was your perception of Miami before you moved down here? And then what was your perception after you moved down here?
I kind of like any northerner or anyone visiting Miami, it's the weather, the beach, the people, and in my preference, the women. So it was the nightlife. It was a great the great exploration.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was before you got here. So what was it after you got here? So the women and the nightlife, did that change?
It was just not within my calling. It was the reality of noticing that there was a bigger purpose of coming down here. While, of course, not living out of New York my entire life was going to be a new experience. Living somewhere new, of course.
Awesome. And what has been your experience so far in those first 2 years living here in Miami?
It was, I think I'm stemming from two different perspectives. One is the advice that my father had given me, which is, the same plane that took you down there can take you right back up. So shoot your shot. And the other is knowing that I have a Hispanic background, weather-wise, culture-wise, Spanish-speaking, as a Spanish-speaking individual, I should adapt rather quickly.
Yeah. So from what I'm understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the first perspective is this place can be hard, and meaning that if it's that hard, get on a plane and go back.
Correct.
Or this place is right down your alley because you speak the language, you can adapt to the culture quickly, and you enjoy your time here.
Exactly.
So talking to me about maybe some of the hard times down here.
Man, I mean, the hard times has been more on a personal level, just simply because of the journey that I'm on. So, while I've been here for 2 years and a half, it's the hard time started the moment I was packing my boxes in New York. Not that I'm incapable of, moving to new destinations. I mean, I'm from New York City. If there's not a city that's going to test your limits, look no further. So
if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. Is that the same?
It might, at this rate, it might sound cliche. But in every sense of the word, it is true. So yeah.
Have you visited Miami before you came and moved down here?
Yeah, the good thing is having family that has lived in Miami for quite some time. Adapting wasn't too much of a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, the journey that I have been on since I landed, was uniquely my own, of course.
So what do you mean uniquely your own? Was it difficult? Was it easy?
I think, Miami has a certain culture. It always has. It always will. So it's two different things when you're on here on vacation, and it's another thing when you're actually living the Miami life.
Yeah, that's very true. So when you're here on vacation, it's fast. The people are nice. The women are nice. Uh, was that your experience when you first came down here to visit?
You know, all that you said is certainly true. I'm just not too cognizant or recollect that moment when I had moved down here. There was a lot of emotions. Having my first apartment in a brand new building, just everything was new. But also coming from a situation where I knew that there was going to be work to be done
Mm-hmm.
without realizing the work that was ahead.
Was that your work to be done, or what do you mean, like personal?
Personal growth,
Okay.
significant growth.
And talk to me about the culture in New York City as far as like nightlife or meeting people. Is it easier in New York than what you found it to be here?
Yeah, significantly. One, you have the population is relatively three times the size, if not more. I'm not familiar with the Miami population, but you have on average 9 million people in New York, 5 different boroughs. Every street, every avenue is its own culture, it's its own identity, and that is the beauty of New York. So coming here, there's certain expectations and a certain expense. Many people compare the two. Again, it depends on your lifestyle, your preferences, and
But
where you're going.
expectations, I like that. But expectations about what? Expectations about how you live your life. Expectations about who you meet, how you meet. What is that expectation? Is it the expectation that you put on yourself? Is it expectation that other people put on you, or
I guess, okay. When I think back on it quickly, I would probably say it's between visiting it as a tourist
Yeah.
as opposed to living
Okay.
in Miami. The expectations are much different. Getting acclimated and adjusting, you either need to, grab the bull by his horns and really taking control. If not, you'll find yourself ish out of luck.
So I want to get back to kind of like the question I asked you about the ability for you to, let's say, create a group of friends or a circle of friends in New York compared to the ability for you to do it here. Is it the same thing?
No, not won't be able to compare the two at all. New York, in every sense of the word, I would say it's easier and harder at the same time. It's hard in the sense that because of the population, you can feel not insignificant, but you can feel one out of many, right? It's like you step outside and there's a swarm of people, which is the beauty of it, because then if you're playing the numbers game, you are more prone to meet new people or, shoot the ish with whomever you encounter. You could be at a deli and you're there trading jokes with the deli guy. You could step outside and then you see a colleague or a friend, or you end up complimenting someone, and that is just almost what you embrace and love about New York. In Miami, given the spacing of it all, and like many other cities that are just not metropolitan cities like New York or larger cities, everything is rather scarce. Everything is rather far. Everything requires a vehicle. There's, of course, acclimating to the culture, to the people, to just, the expense, your preferences in food, where you go to drink, things of that sort.
What about, so when you mentioned something about you're able to kind of give someone a compliment or shoot the ish with someone just randomly on the street, is that not something that can be done here?
Not as much, or really not at all. There's an aura, there's an energy you feel whether you choose to recognize it or not. There's, I don't want to dumb down.
Be nice.
I don't. Yeah, it's not even. Yeah, being nice or dumb down the significance or the beauty in living down here. But let's really. I'm just not a bullshitter. So like, I cut straight to the chase. Here, as opposed to New York, it's super transactional. It's trying to one up the next person.
Tell them why you're mad.
And it's, there's a facade that just rubs me the wrong way. And when you're so in tune with who you are, you don't acclimate to those negative avenues, and you don't wish to go down those avenues. And it's like, all right, cool. You stay where you are. I'm gonna stay where I'm at. And, and I'm just going to enjoy myself.
Right. So you stay in your own lane because you are who you are. When you come down to Miami, you have to be someone. What is that person? Do you have to be filthy rich? Do you have to, what is that person in Miami?
It's an obnoxious you know, lifestyle that is about boasting.
Mm.
It's, you know, it depends on the circle you're around, of course. That's significant because there are some gems, and I've been privy to that. But I'm also someone from New York and from Harlem where I'm observant. I take in my environment, and as men, we tend to understand what the threats, you know, might be around us,
Right. So you're
and taking
aware.
that environment.
So as men, right, in Miami or in just general culture, you talked about men and being observant. How would you describe what a man should be, and then what the perception is of a man here in Miami should be? I guess what's a man? So a man is observant. What else is he in your eyes? Well, describe yourself as a man.
Yeah, I think, granted, it warrants to be said that it varies on the individual,
Mhm.
but there is an idealistic version. I mean, I'm going to get flocked for that, but there's a version of ourselves that we're all chasing after, whether that is influenced by society norms or personal desires or personal beliefs. For me as a man, I mean, it goes to how you live your life in private, your relationship, quite frankly, with me, with God, and are you the same person by yourself as you are around others?
Okay. So let's talk about being a man, and maybe one of the things that's sometimes up for debate is whether men should still be chivalrous. So should they still show that ability to be men, whether they're on dates or even not even a date, right? When no one's looking, like you're saying. Is chivalry dead in men, or is it dead in you? Do you feel comfortable being chivalrous, or talk to me about your experience like that?
I think chivalry for me, for me, it's innate.
Mm.
It's who I am. Again, you're gonna get realness from me from start to finish. You could disclaim it on my horoscope. You can just say that because I'm from New York, because I'm from Harlem, or because I'm Latin and I have all these different backgrounds. That is a privilege. I will say for me, things do come quite easy in that sense, right? These are natural um, gifts that were given to me from birth, and I was able
To harness that energy. So you're
exactly.
saying, as a man, you were birthed to be chivalrous, or to take the lead in situations.
You know it. You really do. And we can get into this topic of when you suppress what I consider, of course, upon repentance and your relationship with God, if you are a religious individual, and hopefully, one eventually does seek themselves to be one with God. And I don't want to make this a religious conversation, but I will say the gist of what I'm saying is when you are certain of who you are, when you're planted and rooted, there's no storm in hell that can move me away from being the individual that I am. So chivalry for me, within me, is not dead. From my observation, I can see it from different lenses, how it is, and how it might be even a pet peeve of mine upon observing.
Okay, so let me give you a scenario. You're walking out of the coffee shop. There's a lady in front of you. You hold the door, and she doesn't say thank you. She just walks away.
The first thing in my mind, I'm thinking, girl, I want to say another word, but I'm like, what? You walk backwards.
Okay.
You better walk backwards.
Okay.
But I take it in the chin and I said, have a nice day.
Okay.
Like,
right, because
dirt off my shoulders.
dirt off your shoulders. Okay. Let's say another hypothetical situation. You're on a date, and you're meeting this.
Spicy.
Okay, the date is spicy. Well, you're meeting this person for the first time.
Certainly.
And what do you do on this date? Do you hold the door for them? Do you make sure that their wine glass is full? What are some of those things that you do as a man?
Okay, yeah, going straight to it. These are things that come very natural to me. So without it, like, it's almost, something about myself is I don't tend to speak or think on things that should just be natural.
Mhm.
But for the sake of conversation, I'll partake. You're opening the door. One of my pet peeves, and one of the things that I certainly observe is when we get into a car, and especially if we ordered an Uber, for example, I'm opening the door. You don't dare to slide across the car in order for me to then make room for me. No. I'm opening the door. You're sitting on that side of the chair, on side of the car, excuse me. And I'm going to loop around and I'm going to open up the other door for myself and sit down. A woman should never, ever enter a car with a man and move across the car.
Like nudge over.
Yeah, it's nudge over. It's the most impolite thing I can see. So, when we sit at a restaurant, of course, if the water has not, needs to be refilled and our waiter isn't there, I mean, I instantly would refill. Yeah, these are just things that come naturally to me.
Okay. And then let's touch a little bit on maybe in some situations, some people, not all, right? I'm not going to generalize women or men. But in some situations, you open the door, you hold the door, and the woman or whoever it is doesn't say anything, whether she's younger, older, or whatever it is. Is it still warranted to still be that person?
Absolutely. Like, we don't always get our way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a way, like, that's a very surface level way of being chivalrous, right? It's like you could look at the definition of chivalry, where does it stem from, and how it's just not a relationship observation or these are acts of services in some fashion. Who you are as an individual, your manners, all of this plays into being chivalry. It all comes from being knightly. And are you an upstanding individual? Are you an honorable man?
Right.
Do unto others as you wish to be done unto you. That sort of thing is what comprises of chivalry.
Do you think some men are afraid to be men?
It's possible. Can't speak for others. For what reasons might they?
Let's say they're on an elevator and they say good morning to another person and they don't say back, and continuously they do that, and they get to a point where, you know what, maybe this is
Discouragement.
Yeah.
It's everyone picks their own battles, to be honest. I will say, having moved down here, the elevator instance in any sense, it's just always a little awkward. You always wish that there could be music playing sometimes. Even myself, it happens. Like, sometimes I'm in a great mood and I'm like, I go into the elevator, I'm like, good morning. And there's other times where I'm just like quiet as a mouse. And I'm just like in and out.
Well, you said you were from New York. Mouse ain't quiet.
So. They certainly aren't. But when they try to get that food.
So, what do you think women think men are supposed to be like? That's a tough question to think about. I'm going to give you some time to marinate on that one.
I think if we just...
Let's focus about here, Miami.
That's a great one. That's a great point. That's a great observation or a great disclaimer.
Yeah, I get it.
Way to start. Man, I hate to say it, but out here, we seen the videos, 500,000 Lambo trucks, Nobu, and God knows what other restaurant David Grutman has just opened up.
Right.
You got to be best friends with Bad Bunny. Floor side seats of Miami Heat.
Mm-hmm. You just got to, I guess the perception here is that you got to live the life that mostly no one is really living, right?
It's incredibly foreign to so many, to majority of the population when they realize the culture here.
You once told me about the culture in Florida, and it was something about sunny places, shady.
Yeah. Man, we're gonna get flocked for that one, but it is what it is. We truth tellers out here. That was an excerpt that I extracted from a comedian. And how much truth there is to it, I have yet to visit California, but it goes something along the lines of, people move to California when they want to... Let me take a step back.
Yeah, take your time. So people move to California, but before you go into your thought about California, the gist of it was this, from what I can remember. It had to do with Florida is a sunny place for shady people. Or...
Yeah, because the saying is, you move to California when you want to be somebody. You move to New York when you are somebody. You move to Florida when you want to be somebody else.
Ooh.
And then the commentary was, or the thing that followed after that was, yeah, Florida is a sunny place for shady people.
Oof.
And how true does that exist throughout the entire state? Does vary. One of the things that many people do in Miami is they like to distinctively acknowledge and recognize and isolate the fact that they are from Miami and no other part of Florida. That is something I have realized and I have seen and I have heard on a very repetitive basis.
Well, if you ask me, I'm from Miami. I never tell people I'm from anywhere else. Because
Exactly.
if I start telling people I'm from Homestead or something, no offense, Homestead, then either they wouldn't understand or that's not where I live. All right, fair enough.
But you get that in New York too, right? Like you have boroughs, and it's like I'm from Harlem, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from Bronx. It's like Staten Island, where you at? But it's we know that we're still a mecca, and we're incredibly proud.
You know what? Talking about that, because I also grew up in New York. One thing I like about New York is that, and we were talking about shady people or bullshitters. In New York, if you were bullshitting, someone called you out on your shit.
For sure.
You could never get away with just the bullshit. So if somebody said, "Oh, I want a man," or
to the point of fighting
whoever,
somebody.
right? If I want some person that's making $1 million, somebody would call you out like, "You're not even making $1 million, or you're not even doing this. You're not even worth it." Like, but before, if I think about it, it was difficult, or situations like that could be difficult for people who don't understand it. But in New York, there's a culture of humbling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can humble yourself because people hold you accountable.
For sure.
When you move to Miami, and you tell me if this is your experience, when you move to Miami, whether it's for dating or anything, there's no one to humble you, right? Even in media and social media. Who's vetting people here? Do we even have that culture of that vetting? Who's calling people out on their bullshit?
From what I gather, I don't think so. I think it's a for me at least how I operate. I can't speak, I can't generalize in this particular discussion. I can't, and I wish not to. But from observing, man, everything just stems, at least from me, just my purpose in life. I'm so out of tune and out of touch with a lot of things that happen in society because I'm just one man, and while one man can't change the world, I'm changing the world in certain aspects. I'm looking my vision is much greater than Miami. So, I'm grateful for being on this podcast. I'll contribute as much as I can, but, I don't know who is vetting people down here and calling them on their ish. I think one of the testing limits is when you are, whatever your dealings are, like anything, how do you manage under the pressure? So when your whatever you are showcasing gets tested and it gets expanded or gets whatever the case, whatever word I would use to describe when things really hit the fan, does it all come crumbling down?
Right.
And I think that is when we realize, like, oh, that was a facade. That was fake. That was imposter. That was an imposter.
Ooh, there's a lot of imposter syndrome.
Oh, without a shadow. It's almost like it's given to you as in doses. It's almost like, here's your imposter bag.
Here's your Florida State driver's license. Here's your imposter syndrome.
There you go.
Okay. So let's set some expectations then. A lot of things like that's been mentioned in social media is expectations of men and salary.
Yeah.
What are your expectations of women, and what should they be making? Is there a salary expectation? Does it even matter?
That's a great question. Of course, I've seen the videos and the interviews and the podcast. I mean, we live in 2024 at this point, but I've been of the mind, going back to chivalry, I believe in a hybrid of traditional roles, is worth mentioning. Because I'm so connected with God, I always feel like there's a helper, and there's always we're all helpers, we're all servants, we all are here with an innate gift, and if we choose to either acknowledge it and sharpen it and come hella high water stand by it, or we look for other things as an escape, as like, I want what that person has, I want the Joneses. No, I'm a Rodriguez, I'm a Marvin Rodriguez, and I'm incredibly proud to be that individual because my vision is large and my appetite is large, but it stems from the divine. And for me, before I lose my train of thought, when it comes to women, it's like, what is your purpose? Right. What do you feel like is your purpose? I'm going to champion you.
In Miami, do women think they have a purpose? That's a hard question to ask. I can't ask you from
it's...
Do you, from your perspective,
yeah,
do women think they have a purpose here besides maybe just looking for the next best thing? Do you think women here have a purpose? You think that they think they have a purpose?
It depends on the circles you're around. That's without a doubt. Let's not take away the fact that, aside from Miami being built from Griselda times, right?
Shout out to Netflix.
Exactly. Shout out to Netflix. Why is it so heavily Spanish speaking? It's not just Cubans. It's South America coming to a piece of this country that is close to where they come from. And that's how I was able to also get acclimated to it. Actually, well, I mean, I love the 4 seasons of the year throughout the year, but living down here is like, okay, well, I'm Hispanic. I should be accustomed to having the sun around me all the time. One thing I always like to joke about is people in Miami act as if they invented the sun. But
what do you mean by that? What do you mean that if they?
Well, it's like the topic is always like the weather. I'm like, bruh, like, let's get on with it. I look forward to rainy days and cloudy days. Like, I gain inspiration from all types of weather.
Okay.
That's really where it's at.
So you were talking about, like, it depends on who you mix with. So and I don't know if you're on the dating scene, but if you're in the dating scene and you're
Ladies.
single, what's the age range you tend to?
I don't.
Is it 18 to 25? Is it 25 to 35? Is it 35?
That's a hot topic. It's a hot question, without a doubt. I never put thought to it because circles that I've been a part of, they either tend to be my age or maybe even younger. So I've moved depending on where I'm at in life. But in the society that we live in now, I don't know if innately or from a societal perspective, are we more cognizant as men as observing a woman's age? Of course, fertility and family and all that stuff does come into play. But where we are also in life, it varies. So for me as an individual, I guess I wouldn't say where my preferences lay at the moment. As a 32-year-old, I would say.
You're 32?
I'm 32, man.
Oh shit! I thought you were like 35 or something.
I've always been said that I look older, or I could at least act older than what my age actually is. I don't know. I think it depends on where I'm at in life, but between.
Well, just put it out there.
Now,
What is it? What is it?
I think there's a 10-year. There's a 10-year range.
Okay, so 42.
No. Between. Well, wait a second now. No, we're talking about like, let's say 23 to like 33. But when we get into the 30 territory,
you gotta pull back.
We gotta understand where we're at and like the exceptions to the rules and things of that sort.
Okay, so you mentioned, and I don't know if you want to go into this, but you mentioned being cognizant of the fact that as people age, there's different things you take into consideration. So you mentioned,
and that's what I meant by the 30
fertility.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Okay, so you'd want to have kids one day, and,
of course,
and this person has to be comfortable having kids. So what are you currently dating now, or what does that look like? And if not, why not?
No, certainly. I think there's two things. One is I'm locked in as a man, as an individual, on what my mission is. So one of the things that I have learned and I have observed, and not for me, I've always knew what it is that I wanted to accomplish in life. And that's one of the things I was privileged to and honed in on. I never steered away. And even when I wanted to steer away, it was like, no, go back to what is your true calling in life. So for me, I never care so much about the focus on the money aspect, nor the women, nor where I'm going to be living or creating a family. I already know that those things exist in my near future. I need to do the work and, do the due diligence on a daily basis to do all that. So I say that to say to all men out there, and to women as well, right? It's like, there's nothing more dangerous than a man who doesn't know what his purpose is in life.
What's your purpose?
My purpose is to inspire humanity. And the way
Damn.
that I'm going to do that,
right? Let me hear it.
Is plainly and simple is I own a brand management company. I'm a creative director from a corporate level that in this day and age is considered a chief brand officer. And quite frankly, not even quite frankly, I mean, not dumb it down. I've been a recording artist since the age of 11. And I've achieved certain things, but put it on the back burner because, I'm battling between developing an agency, having reached a certain climax, $1 million deals, it falling apart, hence the venture to go out to Miami, thinking one thing, but in reality, God said, no, I'm going to need you to grow and mature in certain ways. Hence why my 2-year tenure here has been more isolating than anything else and not partaking in the Miami lifestyle. And as I've been cognizant of that lesson and being in the wilderness, as John the Baptist, did, and how Jesus basically did, not to make this conversation religious, it really is that. And, it's a conversation that could be had, but for the sake of time and everyone's attention and whatnot.
Well, no, don't worry about everybody's attention. I'm with you with the whole.
Yeah.
There should be a certain level of religion in anybody's focus, right? So we have to be guided by something. I think in Miami we're not guided by a lot, right? So we tend to deviate.
Yeah.
So to kind of put that on the side, so you were talking about age range and dating. So let's say you've been in relationships before, right?
For sure.
Okay, and you dated. So what is a man supposed to be in a relationship? What's that?
A leader.
Talk to me about a leader. Talk to me about like your first dating. They're coming over to your house. What does that house look like?
Oh, I'm cooking for you, baby.
Okay.
You getting treated top. Like I'm a Michelin star chef.
Okay.
I'm multifaceted.
So you laying it down.
I'm laying it down.
Okay.
You being impressed out the get go.
Okay. Do you have like dirty laundry on the floor?
No.
Or?
I'm meticulous. Like I want you to be able to look at my life from afar and from up close and say that I don't care how anybody feels. That is a man of God. I walk with a level of confidence and presence and certainty that how I live and within my own apartment is how I exist outside in this world. That's why I'm like deeply rooted, like a maple tree, whatever tree is the biggest and the strongest or whatever or whatnot. I'm not versatile.
Oak tree, I think.
An oak tree. There we go.
Yeah.
So no matter where I'm at, there I am. And I'm incredibly grateful that I don't wither away from who that is.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what city I'm at or where I'm at in life, I'm so in tune with my core. So when it comes back to women, it's like from the smell of the apartment.
Oof, what's that scent smell like?
I mean, it's I don't want to be cliche here, but it'll vary from.
It probably smells sexy.
It's just me. Listen, velvety. I mean, we pop in the best of white wines, the best of reds. Life is too short.
Oh, so it smells like alcohol.
No, for that it'll smell like a bar. But no, my
Tell
apartment
me the fragrance. So you're talking about fragrance.
Sandalwood. We're talking, purple label Ralph Lauren swag. We're talking minimalism. We're talking a diverse palette. We're talking,
Man, is she eating?
Listen,
what's going on here?
We're not allergic to anything, thank God.
Okay.
So, I can, on a Monday, I can whip up a branzino. On a Friday, I can cook a lasagna.
Damn.
On a Sunday.
Where do these women send their resumes to?
I mean, listen.
Where do they apply?
Listen. It's a bit of a long line, but you can sometimes get expedited service.
Okay. Damn. They got to go down to the passport office? How do they
listen. I know that I am the ideal man I know that I'm an ideal man because I'm working on myself as to be that ideal man from an individual level, but also from understanding that I'm going to have a family one day.
Awesome.
And I need to be the man that my daughter is going to want to marry one day. And that my son is going to want to be. Mm-hmm. And that my wife would be proud. And then my mom would be proud. And then my father and, my family. Like it's, there's truth to this. Mm-hmm. This is not a lie. This is not a label. I'm not throwing out gimmicky words and going to job interviews saying that I'm one thing when I'm really not the other. No, like,
this is who you are.
I'm a spitting image of what it is to mean to be that guy.
So talk to these guys out there, and if you had one piece of advice to give them to be successful, not only as a man, but as a man of family, what's that advice you would give that man in Miami today?
I mean, that man in Miami, I think he's too confused, too lost.
Talk to him.
Too confused, too lost. But I think, in a day and age where we have the Andrew Tates, the Jordan Petersons, but also other figures, like who is it that you idolize in the sense of, lives the life that you want to live? What are the books you take in? What are the movies you see? What is the music you listen to? I still buy my music. I don't stream. I mean, I use Spotify because the sake it's free and I'll like tune into the new hit records, but I buy my music because I know that quality over quantity is everything to me. So yeah.
So you're telling these guys, buy your own music. Tell me exactly what you would tell these guys to be a successful, at least get on your path to be a successful man in Miami.
We all know what our calling is. It is going to be your duty and your responsibility to sit in your silence and say to yourself, if I gave everything away, whatever I have, or if I don't have anything, what is going to bring me the most happiness? What is going to bring me the most inspiration? What is my purpose? What is life? Where do I envision myself? Just close your eyes, sit, meditate, do whatever you need to do. I mean, but it's not an overnight thing neither.
All right, nothing's overnight. So if you're saying anything, if I'm hearing you correctly, is guys, there's something bigger than just money, right? materialistic things.
Of course.
There's something bigger that we all forgot about. And to be a man, you have to be secure in who you are as a man. And until you get to that point, you're going to talk all that shit on the internet. You're going to talk all that shit in the podcast because you've forgotten how to be a man. And you've forgotten that there's a higher power, like we were talking about, we just kind of just touched on, that is guiding you. And you forgot how that person is going to guide you. And you forgot about the challenges that person put in front of you so that you can be an Instagram sensation or whatever it is. Miami, wake up. You're lost. But Marvin, thank you again for being on the show. I appreciate you. This is another episode of Mala Mia. If you guys want to leave any comments in the comment section, please feel free.
Peace and love. You know what I'm saying? I thank you for having me. I'm giving you your flowers, man. This is incredibly, it's an honor. And I give you your flowers because, you really locked in and said, I'm going to commit to this. And the way you treat your guests, the service you provide, the questions you ask, he serves wines, ladies and gentlemen. He serves wine. He asks you. He picks you up. He's a gentleman. He's chivalrous.
Damn. I'll do it for the ladies and the men.
You know what I'm saying? As we New Yorkers say, pause.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining another episode of Mala Mia.
Ask me the question one more time. You're going to have trouble editing this shit.
Bro. That way I know where to start.
Alabare. My name is Great Gatsby.
Great Gatsby, okay.
I'm Great Gatsby.